Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. I hope you're having an amazing day. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking a look here today at ETN, and ETN is an interesting one. It's a Eternium, is that what it is? Oh, sorry, no, it's Electroneum. It belongs in a Marvel movie, but regardless, it's a very interesting coin. What's happening today, based on its recent price action, I was asked to go ahead and cover this by my community. So thank you all very much for requesting I cover this. Moving forward, if you're new to the channel, or even if you're not, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should always do your own research. Just know I have years of trading experience, and my goal is to help you trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. If you do prefer to kind of go on autopilot, I have a link in the description below to my Patreon account. In case you're curious on signals, I send out 3 to 5 signals. These are buy signals and sell stop limits, everything that you need to trade effectively. I send those roughly 3 to 5 per week. Okay. Now I have that, of course, to ensure that my patrons are taken care of. So feel free again to reference that at your own time. Also reference my Telegram community too. We got a really good group of folks there. There's no cost for that. You can just learn as much as you'd like. Okay. So get in there and get engaged, and let's all learn and grow together. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at ETN, which is Electroneum. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline in the market so we know exactly what's going on, so you can make a better, more well-informed decision, understanding a little bit more about the market, right? So let's take a look at that here first. So Bitcoin, first of all, this is TradingView desktop application. I utilize the 200 and the 50-day simple moving average. So the purple here is the simple moving average. That is a 200, and the 50 is this orange line here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And don't worry about these lines here, of course. That's kind of just showing that we are working ourselves into kind of a wedge pattern. And it should break either up or down in the fairly near future. But at this point in time, it's just kind of doing a whole lot of sideways right now. So not a lot of fun, not the greatest, but it is what it is, right? So soon we shall see an increase or decrease, but right now we kind of got that weekend lull. So we'll see what happens. But the bottom line here is that the price is currently under the 200 and the 50-day moving average, as well as the fact that we have a major resistance at roughly 42,000 and a major support at 30,000. There's also a secondary support at 31,000. It was tested about 4 times here recently. So that is a slight cause for concern there, because the more often you test a support level, the more likely it could break. So we're hoping for the price just to stay above 31,000 and continue to progress upwards, hopefully to surpass 32, 33,000, etc. Because there's kind of a small resistance between 32 and 33,000. All right, so that's the state of the union for Bitcoin, kind of the normal there, I guess you could say. Same with Ethereum too. Not much has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. Bitcoin's gone sideways, and so has Ethereum. It's essentially mimicking Bitcoin for the most part because of just how how timid, I guess you could say, people have become. In other words, it's no longer taking all the market capitalization like it used to when Bitcoin goes sideways. It's now kind of doing the same thing as sideways does, or at Bitcoin. Oh my God, Bitcoin, the same thing as Bitcoin does. Only it's like a diminished return. It's like it's much lower than Bitcoin, but all in all, not ramping up quite as what we're used to. So just pay attention to when the RSI comes under 30. There's a chance that it could bounce back. Right now, it's just kind of whole lot of nothing again. Not much to note. There is a major support at 1725 and a major resistance at 1900. So let's look at Electroneum, which I love that name, by the way. That sounds like it belongs in a Marvel movie. And Electroneum is ETN. So it's definitely an interesting one here, because as we look at the volume, just to quickly note on the 1-day chart, look how much volume we've had. I think the volume is right up to here. That almost rivals its largest volume day. Back on March 24th, which was a really good day for the market in general. Bitcoin was ramping up to about 60,000 at that point. So that's kind of what we're looking at here for the 1-day chart. The thing I like to also note as well, and let's check this out too with the actual the time frames for Bitcoin selling off, right? Because we got the 17th, 22nd, 25th, things reversed. So let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick. So April 17th is this guy right here, this green candlestick. So ETN actually did better on the first Bitcoin sell-off than it did with most other altcoins, right? So that's something to note. Obviously, it wasn't foolproof, because it did taper off and eventually fall on the 22nd. So as we can tell, the second major sell-off kind of impacted it. And then right here on the 25th is when the rest of the market increased significantly, whereas Electroneum still went sideways for the most part here, minus a small little ramp up on the third, but that retraced back down. So, I mean, if you look at this here, honestly, I would say the average true range for Electroneum ETN is 0.019 upwards of 0.024. So, somewhere in that range, that is essentially the average true range that it spent the most time in before, the Elon candle on the 12th and then the major China candle on the 18th and 19th. Ever since then, it's gone a whole lot of sideways with some kind of major catalyst here today. So when we see price action like this, that tells us that there is something driving the price up. It's, even though, yes, it was held down for a long time and it just kind of took off out of nowhere, usually when you see that happen, there's some kind of fundamentals, right? So, do your own research, of course. I haven't done any myself personally because it's just technical analysis, but I can tell you, based on technical charts and all the charts I've looked at, there's definitely something pushing the price up. So do your own research there. But that's kind of what we're looking at for the one-day charts. Obviously, the RSI is up over 70. That happens when this price jumps up like that. Will it stay over 70 for long? It's hard to say specifically. We'll look at some other charts to identify. And the MACD, really, we had a convergence back here, but that continued to taper off after that. So I don't see a lot here that's all that exciting, based on with just the one-day chart alone, right? So let's go ahead and move on to the 4-hour, see what's going on. We can kind of see a little bit more, how this worked out. So first of all, to clarify, both the moving averages were working as resistance levels. The 200, of course, worked right up to this point here on the 16th, which was yesterday in the afternoon. And then prior to that, of course, it just broke over the 50. So it broke the 50 and then the 200, and then it just went crazy gangbusters. So oftentimes when you see the moving averages get broken, they get broken hard and fast. That is an example of what that would look like. So keep that in mind. That does happen sometimes. The MACD did swing in an upward fashion here. So we did get a convergence on the 16th at roughly 5 a.m. Pacific. So it's something to note as well that that could have been a potentially good entry point if you're just kind of more of a swing trader and you're waiting for a convergence. Now it's not easy to identify, obviously. As you can tell, that's not the easiest little convergence that you can normally identify. They're usually pretty obvious, right? So that would, I wouldn't fault you for missing that because that's honestly not very easy. But what I'm getting at here is the fact that the RSI is up over 70. It still is here as well, but it just dropped down below. So there's a good chance we could see a ramp back up. It did retrace, of course, here in this last 8 hours, but there's a good chance there's still gas left in the tank based on the fact that the RSI is still under 70. Could be a pretty good option still. We'll see. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the 4-hour chart. Let's take a look at the 1 hour. And what we typically do is just disable the SMA lines because they're no longer relevant on the 1-hour chart, in my opinion. Again, some other people would probably differentiate on that, but I prefer just to utilize the Ichimoku cloud with less noise. Now the cloud is going to be pretty obvious here. In other words, with very little price action back here, you're going to see very little room for improvement or little room for growth, or just the cloud isn't super effective in consolidation periods. In other words, right now where it's at, we want to pay attention to how it responds to the price soon. So this could work as a support and keep the price above it. There's a good chance that it does happen a lot. So I'd say roughly 1 cent is approximately the case in point where we should see a bounce up and it should continue up. Hopefully it stays above there beforehand, but what I'm getting at here is the fact that the Ichimoku cloud, when the price is over, it's considered a buy signal. When it's under, it's considered a sell signal. And previously, prior to this, it would have been hard to identify, oh, it's up over the cloud, let's get a buy signal. Yes, we saw that a little bit here, but it's been dancing above and below the whole time. Not really all that big of a deal. In other words, I wouldn't, when you have just long periods of consolidation, tight consolidation, the cloud is kind of null and void until it starts breaking out like it did now. Now we can use the cloud moving forward to kind of identify that. What we do want to look at here, though, is TD sequential, just kind of see if we've reached a state of exhaustion yet. And it does look like we have a reset here. In other words, we got the 1 through 6, but we got a bit of a reset where the price tried to come back up. This is pretty standard when we get the major retracements. Oftentimes, it doesn't always retrace down to a 9. So future reference, TD sequential, we're looking for a 9 to reset. So at this point in time, we could see the price action continue downwards for at least another 6 hours. There's potential there. Okay. So again, I don't put a lot of weight into this. This isn't like the end all be all, but this does help you confirm when there's a state of exhaustion and we haven't reached any exhaustion. It's probably just going sideways right now. Okay. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking at there for the 1 hour. Let's go ahead and quickly identify on the 15-minute chart. Let's take a look at the VWAP and EMA. Now the VWAP is a volume weighted average price, just takes the volume the last 24 hours and expresses it as a price. So right at 5 p.m. Pacific, it does reset. So you see the price, the VWAP come back down. But prior to that, it's working as a resistance. So we want to go on that knowledge alone in the sense that the VWAP line is considered a support and resistance level that's continuous with the price over a 24-hour period. So right now it just reset, yes, but prior to that it was under, so that's not a good buy signal. Okay, because again, when you want to have a buy signal, you want to have a buy signal telling you when the price is over EMA and VWAP, not when it's under. Okay, so looking here back here, if we look back here, there were some buy signals here, like this, for example, this little yellow up arrow. That's part of my notification that allows me to understand that, okay, I can quickly identify that this is an entry point here. Because again, we have 30 minutes of confirmation. So 2 solid 15-minute candlesticks closing together or in a row essentially gives you 30 minutes of confirmation. And the confirmation is just telling you that, okay, yeah, price is over EMA, great sign. Check number 1. Price is over VWAP, check number 2. And we have 30 minutes of confirmation, check number 3. So it's like that trifecta, the thing that I always look for before taking entry to ensure that we're getting in when the market is moving in the direction we want to head. Right? If you're shorting, the opposite would apply too. You'd want to make sure there are red bars below EMA and VWAP. But the concept is to essentially make sure that you are, following the bulls when they're going on a run. Okay. Now it's easy to identify right now, of course, I get that. But for the most part, these are things you want to try to look for because it shows you that yes, the price is going to increase, or it should likely continue to increase because the bulls are now in control. They've controlled the last 30 minutes of price action. So, a lot of people will use, just say the 5-minute chart and the same theory. It does kind of work, but to me, 2 15-minute green bars, in other words, 30 minutes of confirmation, really helps kind of solidify the fact that you're going in the right direction. And yes, you can miss out on some price action, obviously, but you're not trying to buy the dip in this case, right? You're not chasing the bottom, and that can be very hard to do. So the EMA and the VWAP combined kind of gives you that little bit of certainty knowing you're heading in the right direction. So just say you had, gotten in on a position right back here, you honored this rule, you would have seen let's just say you found halfway up, 108 to 130% gain, right? So you would have doubled your profit had you invested right then and there. Again, easier said than done, but when you look at the 1-day chart and you identify the fact that we've got some increase in volume, and then you look at the 4-hour chart and you identify the fact that, okay, the MACD was swinging upward, and then you double check with the Ichimoku cloud, typically, all those things combined with what I just showed you is the right way to make an investment. Yeah. So, as part of my signal group, which I have through my Patreon account, reference that in the link below, I actually provide you with 3 to 5 signals per week using this method. And this method essentially allows for me to have well over an 80% success rate right now. I think we're at about 87% right now. We have an open position with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's being very difficult right now. But regardless, that is essentially what you'll get from that. So feel free to reference that in your own time. But I mention that just because I use this, what I show you just now, everything I just showed you, I use this on a regular basis. This is what I do consistently throughout the week. Yes, it takes longer to find good entry points, but they're better entry points and they're more consistent. Okay. And don't chase the bottom, be smart, be wise, and have good risk tolerance too, because even though what I'm showing you here is a pretty good option, it's not foolproof, right? You can still lose. So you set a good stop limit, you set a good sell limit, and make sure that you are at a point where you can comfortably afford to lose that money, but never risk more than what you are willing to lose. To me, it's no more than 2% of my portfolio size. I never risk more than 2% loss on my portfolio size at any given time. I recommend you do something similar, because if you don't have those kind of fundamentals, so to speak, the foundation of good risk tolerance, then you're just going to keep flushing your money down the toilet, for lack of better terms, because trading is not gambling. It is it's an inexact science, but it's also something that you can swing to your favor. Like the whole term of the house always wins, right? You become the house when you utilize things like this. So there's just kind of a different way of looking at it. Either way, I have a tendency rambling on. That's enough for me here today. Thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to join my Telegram community too if you'd like to jump in and get engaged in communication. We got a good group of folks there. Can learn some things, ask some questions. We'll help you out. Okay. So thanks so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.